Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your hosts, Calvin Timms and Dynasty. Well, not Dynasty Dale. That's not your name.
Well,
Dale Terry. You know, we're the two hosts for this podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale and at TDC_Calvin. Thank you guys for coming back today, and we're excited. You know, we're in the middle of the off season, so there's not a ton of content. I actually have one video that's going to be an extra video coming out this week that I'm going to be pretty excited about, talking about the new hotness, the latest Dynasty debate that's been raging through the community. Travis Etienne versus Tank Bigsby. I'm going to be doing a video on that here probably tomorrow when you guys are watching. So on Wednesday, that'll be coming out. But today, Dale and I are going to be recapping and reviewing a rookie draft. And again, we're doing this a little bit with real live drafts, not mock drafts, because in mock drafts, people are much more liberal with their picks, right? I don't really need this, so I'll just take the better player, the guy I like more here. But when you have an actual rookie draft, you put the pen to paper and you actually have to make a decision, right? So it changes things, you know. Maybe people are less comfortable taking someone like a Will Levis or Zach Charbonnet or whoever it may be. And we get to kind of evaluate the teams and what we think that their thought process was and whether or not they had a formulated strategy going through this, and then how you guys can take that and apply it to your rookie drafts this upcoming off season. So if you've had your rookie draft, it's kind of crazy, man. I've seen people have their rookie draft like the day after the NFL draft. One of my leagues, we don't do our rookie draft until the week before the season, kind of like a redraft league.
Gosh.
So it's like, you know, it's very, rookie drafts can vary pretty heavily. So some people out there have not done a rookie draft yet, and this is for you guys out there as well. And, you know, even if you have, one other piece of advice too, if you have had your rookie draft, we're going to give you guys some strategies and some tips and some ideas with some of these players that maybe you can now take to your team in this offseason and kind of apply it that way. You can look at your team objectively that way and, you know, approach it in a more strategic fashion, right? And okay, maybe you didn't go and get Zach Charbonnet at 1.9 in your league like you could have, right? And you really need running back, so who else can I go and get that may be cheaper than someone like a Zach Charbonnet, or how can I attack that in a different way? So we're trying to help you guys build your rosters all off season long, and yeah, we're excited. And I will say, Dale and I have been talking, one of the pieces of content that's going to be coming up, we're doing a little bit longer on the intro here today just to bear with us, but one of the pieces of content that we're going to be doing here soon, the month of July, every single day in the month of July, we're going to be releasing a breakdown of every single NFL team, all the changes that they made in the offseason, whether it was coaching staff, you know, even coordinators, anything like that has to do with the staff, any free agents that left, any that they got, the rookie draft, everything, any trades that they may have made. We're going to be going through all of it for every single NFL team. And the reason why is because, like most people out there, you know, come August and July, I forget some of the small moves that happened, you know, back in February or March of this last year. You know, there's guys that end up on new teams. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot he was there. I completely forgot that they signed him. And hopefully by July, all the free agents will be signed by then. But yeah, that is going to be something that we're going to be doing through the entire month of July. Going to be a fun piece of content. And we're going to be giving you fantasy implications as well. It's not just going to be a recap like, oh, you know, the Arizona Cardinals added Jonathan Gannon as their new head coach. That's it, you know. So we're going to be talking about the fantasy implications of that, of the whole team and all the roster changes that they've made, for example. So I'm really excited about that, and I know Dale is as well. Dale, how are we doing today? Any last thoughts here?
No, I'm feeling great today. I'm feeling spicy, and I'm actually really excited to talk about one of my leagues today.
Yes, this one is
So,
one of Dale's drafts. So
yes,
we get to go through his thought process. I think last time we
yes,
went through mine. So,
mm-hmm,
just a little bit of the flip of the coin here. And
yes,
that said, let's jump into it. So, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the draft board. It's a nice, clean draft for this one. It's only 3 rounds
mm-hmm,
for a rookie draft, which I actually
yes, which I
like.
love that.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree with
it's
that.
really nice. It's I opened it up and I was kind of surprised because almost every draft nowadays is just so long. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, yes. Well. I was in one last week that started on I think Wednesday afternoon and ended like yesterday morning,
Ooh,
and like it's a 5 rounder, and it
yep,
feels like it just just logs on forever and ever, and
right.
it just never ends.
I was in one where they had 6 rounds, and it was like,
Oh,
please, please stop. We don't
oh my,
care after like 3.5.
right,
It's
right.
just
Oh my
misery. So
gosh.
this is a nice one. There are going to be players left available at the end of this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where it's interesting because then you got guys on the waiver wire that you can go and spend some money
Yeah.
on. Kind of makes it a little bit more interesting for the fab. I have not spent in a single dollar of fab all offseason because there's not been anybody that I've been interested in. But you know, that said, like I
Right.
said, if you're watching on YouTube, we do have the draft board down below. So make sure you're checking out that. We're trying to push everybody to YouTube while you're there if you can. Subscribe to the video. Tell the podcast to one of your friends. We're just trying to grow it all off season long, trying to help everybody out there. Give them a little bit of a more unique and in depth take on Dynasty. That's not just, oh, this guy's good, this guy's bad. Why? Oh, this one metric that I found that says he's a lead in it. And it's like, great. That's super,
Right.
super helpful. So we're trying to give it more realistic Dynasty advice all off season long. So if you can, subscribe to the video, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you're listening to the podcast. It just helps us out, and we really do appreciate you guys helping us
Mm-hmm.
there. So, that
Absolutely.
said, Dale, kick us off. What was the 101?
All right. It's the obvious 101 was Bijan Robinson with Ultraflex Rob. I will first I'll first start out in saying that this league is a little bit different.
Okay.
In that in that it is a super flex league, but we start one quarterback, 8 flex, and then we have a super flex spot, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
half point tight end premium. So it's almost like best ball, I feel like,
A little bit,
but
yeah. Yep.
yeah, but like you have to set a lineup, which
Right.
honestly, like I feel that's what fantasy is about. Like you have to make the decisions, you know, but that's just me. So,
Right.
um, so, so with that, like this guy finished the ninth last. He finished fourth, I should say, last year.
Right.
Um, and his team has Kirk Cousins, Jacoby Brissett, Jalen Hurts, who we. So, yeah, Sam Howell. He has at running back. He has Samaje Perine, Nicholas Chubb, David Montgomery, Pierre Strong, which is interesting. Let's see. Anybody else interesting at running back? No, other than the rookies. And at wide receiver, he's got Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown. Like this guy has a lot of good wide receivers, which is very
Right.
very scary.
Right.
And that tight end, he has Pat Fryermuth, Trey McBride, which is interesting.
Okay.
And for his first pick, he picked Bijan Robinson, which I'm a little envious because I wanted some Bijan in my life, but I was not able to get that.
Right.
Um, and then throughout the draft, like he did have 3 other picks. If you want me to go over those real quick.
Sure. So yeah, I can highlight it here on YouTube. You
Yep.
can see it. So yeah, the 1-1, obviously the one
Hmm.
six, and
Yep.
the 2-9, and the 3-2. So
Yes.
a little bit scattered all around the board
Yes.
there. Now with the 1-1, Bijan Robinson, I get it. I really do.
Hmm.
It's hard not to take him there. I will
It
say, if
is.
anybody is kind of in need of a quarterback, though, it's
It would
probably
be
this
this
guy. I
guy.
mean, Kirk
Yes.
Cousins, I
Yes.
like him. Jalen Hurts, I love him. Jacoby Brissett and Sam Howell, at least he has the two there, so he should
Right.
be safe at least to have
Right.
somebody if need be. But I mean, if you lose Kirk Cousins or you lose Jalen Hurts, you're going to be hurting come playoff time,
Hurting.
right? So
Yes. Agreed.
you have the perfect opportunity to take Anthony Richardson, but
Mm-hmm.
again, with the multiple flex, when you have to start one running back, pairing Nick Chubb and Bijan Robinson, Dave Montgomery, he doesn't have the best running backs.
No.
Like you said, he has good receivers, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Bijan Robinson could definitely be a difference maker. The depth,
100%.
and I do believe I was in this league at one point in time, and I
Well, well,
ultimately
well, 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 well. Actually, actually, this league is a completely different league, but it still has some of the same
okay,
players,
nice.
players in it, which is probably why you are familiar with some of these
I'm gonna
names
say I've seen some of
and
them,
faces and stuff like that.
and the
Like they
format
are.
too, right? So I
Yes,
I
it's
actually
it's pretty
recruited,
similar. Yeah.
yeah, I recruited Dale into one where you had to start all your starters and you had 5 flex after, and it
Yes,
was a
it's
wild league,
crazy.
but
Yeah. Yes.
ultimately it was like a low dollar league, and it was just
Yeah.
more hassle than
Yep.
it was
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
so I ended up leaving that one after 4 or 5 years, I think it was. But
Yeah. I believe
um,
so.
yeah, no, these ones are fun. Ultimately, the flex is the depth is just critical. You need as many elite players as possible.
As
So
possible.
I don't
Yes.
I don't hate this Bijan Robinson pick here at all.
Mm-hmm.
The 1-2 Bryce Young is interesting to me. Now, give me this guy's roster really quickly.
All right. He has Ryan Tannehill, Jimmy G, Joe Burrow, and then he did get Bryce Young. At running back, he's got CMC, Josh Jacobs, Tyler Algier, and then at wide receiver, he's got
A lot of
Deontay
guys now,
Johnson.
based on the
Yeah,
draft.
yeah. He doesn't really have a lot of receivers.
I can
Um,
see that from his draft.
Yes, which he went very, very wide receiver heavy. And
Right.
then and at tight end, he does have Zach Ertz
Okay.
and Dallas Goddard.
Not really the best depth there, and
No, gosh, no.
it's kind of but he did finish as third last year, so that's kind of
Yes, he did.
incredible there. I don't really see it too much how that was possible, but
Yeah, I don't understand either with some of these guys.
I guess Jacobs and McCaffrey, that's pretty strong duo right
yes,
there.
that does help quite
And
a bit.
Burrow. A pretty good
Yes,
trio of guys. Now,
yes.
the pick of Bryce Young, so he had the 1-2, the 1-8, the 2-8, the 2-10, 3-8, 3-10. He had a lot
Mhm.
of picks later on. It looks like he got all of Ultra Flex Ryan's picks in this draft.
Yes, basically,
Um,
yeah.
but it's interesting to me because you have your choice of quarterback here, and you have Joe Burrow, you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's kind of safe already. Ryan Tannehill banged up, but also kind of safe. Like, if
Yeah.
anybody could take a stab at Richardson and be semi okay, if he misses, would be
Mhm.
this guy. So I
Yes.
don't really understand the Bryce Young pick here. I think that's going to ultimately hurt him long term because
I agree.
you're taking a guy at 1-2 who's, in my opinion, a ceiling of Kirk Cousins, And it's like, is that worth it? You could have Anthony Richardson who has a ceiling of number one overall, right?
Mhm.
If he is able to get it all together and
Yeah.
is able to
Yeah.
hit. Now he's got a floor of of Zach Wilson, right? But he's got such a high ceiling that it's crazy to me that you're taking Bryce Young over him. So, um, interesting. Your thoughts on this pick?
Yeah, I was a little surprised about it too. I mean, in most leagues I'm in, like I've seen Anthony Richardson go second,
Right.
and I think for this guy's roster that would have been the stab to take, but I think he was probably hoping to take the more, I guess, fantasy stable quarterback that he felt between Young and Richardson,
Sure.
and so which I get it, but also like I feel in fantasy that you're trying to win,
Right.
and if you don't take some chances, you don't win.
Yep. I'm with you.
So
I'm definitely with you. So that's where it gets interesting because at 3 here, this team was able to luck right into Anthony Richardson, just fell
yes,
right into his
yes,
lap. He has, at quarterback, he has Josh Allen already, Matt Stafford,
hmm
and Desmond Ritter. So,
yes.
we
He
can
is
touch on the
fantastic at
rest of his
quarterback.
roster
Yeah.
later, but yeah, just
Yep.
pairing him with Josh Allen, man, that's Oh, if those guys
Helps.
both hit,
Helps a
that's
lot.
nasty. In a
Yes.
Superflex, that is nasty.
Yes. No, I fully agree. And then for running back, he has Rashad White. He's got James Cook.
Right.
He has Pacheco. At receiver,
Not bad.
and I mean, it's a bunch of Jags in my opinion.
Right.
There's really nobody that's like, really popping off the screen at wide receiver, unfortunately for him. And then at
Sure.
tight end, I mean, he does have Cole Kmet and Isaiah Likely and Chig Okonkwo.
Okay.
I said his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, like I mean with him getting Richardson falling in his lap, I think
Hmm.
that's a home run for him. I was actually hoping that it would that 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 like I would get a piece of Richardson and he would take Stroud. That's kind of what I was hoping for, but that didn't happen after all. So
You wanted Richardson?
I mean if he would have fell to me at 1-4, yes, I would have yeah, I would have taken him in a heartbeat,
Sure. I gotcha.
you
I
know.
gotcha.
So
Okay. That leaves you on the clock at 4 here, and this is pretty interesting. You had back-to-back picks here at
yes, I
4
did.
and 5. Now break down your team real quick, and then I'll give you my thoughts on these two picks.
Yes. So at quarterback, I have Tua, Zach Wilson, and then Mariota. I did not have a lot of quarterbacks.
Right.
Um, Unfortunately, I did not go quarterback. It's very much at all. And then at
Right.
running back, yeah. And then at running back, I have Jamal Williams. I got Swift. I got Clyde, A.J. Dillon, Cam
Mhm.
Akers, Brian
Okay.
Robinson.
Okay.
Which is halfway solid.
Right.
And then at wide receiver, I got Amari Cooper, I got Tim Patrick. Let's
Mhm.
see. That's really
Fireball
about
Jones.
yes, that's about it at wide receiver. And then at tight end, with this being a tight end premium, I get a little bit cute on the tight end sometimes.
Mhm. That's
And
always
I,
hard
I
finding that line.
it is very hard. It is very hard. I have Kyle Pitts, I got TJ Hawkinson,
Ooh.
um, David Njoku, I have Hayden Hurst, which I'm probably going to start most of those guys each week, to be
Right.
honest, like
Right.
if I don't trade one.
Right.
So, actually, like I did get TJ Hawkinson for Mike Evans last year, about midway through the year.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha. And then
so yeah, I was pretty content with that trade.
I was gonna say the one thing too with these multi-flex leagues like this one, the you want elite players, right? It doesn't really matter if they're
Yes.
running back or receiver, but
Yeah.
typically you want as many elite wide receivers as possible. And
Yeah.
if you only have to start one elite running back every single week and you got 4 or 5 receivers, you're going to be in a very, very good spot to contend
Hmm.
for the title, right? Just due to the variance in running backs versus the consistency in elite wide receivers, right? But there's no right or wrong way. You can do it with running back heavy, and it doesn't penalize you like in some other leagues. So,
Yeah.
just a small piece of commentary there, just
Hmm.
for everybody out there listening. So, at 4 and 5 here, you went C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I like C.J. Stroud quite a bit. With Tua, if he can stay healthy, not a bad combination there. So, and
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young went just before you. There's just those three guys are the three main guys there. So,
Yeah.
no big qualms there. Now JSN at 5, and I get it. You're still in love with them, man.
Yep.
People have been giving me so much
Fading on
crap
him.
lately because I've been fading him a lot and
Yeah.
not heavily. Like he's still in my tier 1 of wide receivers, but I am very comfortably taking Quentin Johnston and Jordan Addison ahead of JSN right now in any league that I'm drafting in. And here's my reasoning why. I am very scared for JSN for fantasy relevance.
Okay.
I still think he's going to be a very, very good wide receiver, but they drafted him to be the number 3 on this team in his rookie year.
Hmm.
Everyone knows that Tyler Lockett can't stay 100% healthy. He's also getting a little bit older, but if Tyler Lockett is healthy, I still think he's better than JSN this year. If he plays well, they're going to re-sign him next year. And at that point, he's going to be the primary starter at least most of the year if he can stay healthy the entire year, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably 2 to 2.5 years away from JSN being in a primary starter's role for the Seahawks. You couple that with Pete Carroll, who wants to run the ball. He wants it to be as close to 50-50 run-pass split as possible, right? You have really good options on this team. I mean, you've got DK, you've got Lockett, you've got Noah Fant still. There's a couple of other tight ends. I forget who they are off the top of my head, but the team is just loaded everywhere on the offensive side of the ball. They've got Kenneth Walker. They have Zach Charbonnet. Both have pass-catching capabilities. And Geno Smith is your quarterback, and I like Geno a lot, but he's not going to be someone who's going to be top 10 in pass attempts this upcoming season, right? So I'm very nervous on JSN, and it was always kind of known that in year one he wasn't going to be critical, right, of the three main guys. I'm afraid in year two he's also not going to be critical, and that's where you're just losing way too much potential value versus a Quentin Johnson and a Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, we all know, can have mega value in year one. Quentin Johnson has that potential for year one value, but definitely in year two. So that's the only reason I've been cooling on JSN. Any major thoughts there? You still a truther?
I will always be a truther, and it doesn't help I'm a homer, but I know Smith and Jigba has more talent than these other guys that you said,
right?
And I will pick talent over situation any day.
Okay,
so
fair enough.
So I do understand the concerns, but even though he's going to be the third option, I still think he's going to be. I mean he's still the slot guy.
Yeah,
and he's still going to get probably around 100 targets, I'm hoping, and he's probably going to get between 60 and 75 catches.
Sure.
And he's probably going to get close to he's probably going to have about 800 yards and a couple touchdowns, which I think is great, and I feel comfortable having that year one, and I think it's only going to go up from there.
Sure.
So
it's possible that, Tyler Lockett can't stay healthy and JSN suddenly is the number two. And, it's all in the realm of possibilities. I'm just a little nervous about that. And this all kind of boils down. Fair. I was going to say, this all boils down to our pre-draft kind of rankings, evaluation of Quentin Johnson and JSN. Like, you're a little bit lower on Quentin Johnson than me.
I am.
I've always been really high on JSN, but I've always been a little bit higher on Quentin Johnson too. So, and Jordan Addison just going to probably the best fantasy relevant place in year one just makes it hard to bypass.
It does.
And that comes into value too, right? Because if Jordan Addison hits in year one with Kirk Cousins, which is entirely possible, right? It's going to be very easy to flip him next year for like JSN plus, and that's where
absolutely,
playing a little bit of the value game there. But again, I don't fault you for getting your guy there. All right. So
and then I will say that it's for the 105. Like I did trade to get that pick before the draft. Like I on my squad, like I did have Garrett Wilson.
Ooh.
And yes, I traded Garrett. I traded Garrett Wilson for the 105, 110, and 205.
Okay, that's a good value at least.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah. So it is. So it was multiple picks. So I wasn't giving up just peanuts for Wilson, which I'm sure some people are going to roast me for that, and that's okay. But and that's fine. But my team is not good, and I know that. Right. So I'm trying to get as many things as I can before.
Yeah, and that's the other benefit too. Like JSN, you don't necessarily need a guy year one, right? So that's where it benefits you. You still are kind of probably a year away from really being able to compete, So no, I don't hate that whatsoever.
Yeah.
All right, going into 6 here. This is the guy who took Bijan Robinson, so we already kind of recapped his draft a little bit. Doubles up here and takes Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, if we look at his receivers again,
his receivers are.
He's got Lockett, Adams, Diggs, AJ Brown. So he's got some good guys there. So I don't really hate that too much. Taking, again, elite depth is kind of what you're looking for there. So if Jahmyr Gibbs is as good as everybody kind of can thinks he can be, then this is a slam dunk there. Although I maybe would have taken, again, elite wide receiver in your flex here is better than an elite running back almost like 9 times out of 10. So I probably, if it was me, would have taken Quentin Johnston. But again, I don't fault him too much. The only thing with his receivers they are getting a little bit older. Tyler Lockett, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, like all 3 of those guys are in their twilight years. So I probably would have taken Addison or Quentin Johnson, but nitpicky there.
Yeah.
All right, number 7 here, Team 7. This guy did not trade any picks and had all of his original picks. So roster, break it down for us.
Yeah. So at quarterback, he has Daniel Jones. He has Daniel and Mac Jones. And then he has General Mills as his other quarterback. Let's see. At running back, he has Joe Mixon, Johnny Taylor, Najee Harris. Yeah. And then at wide receiver, he has Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, Hunter Renfrow. Darnell Mooney. He also has Jahan Dotson and Nico Collins. And then at tight end, he has Hunter Henry, Tyler Conklin, and Gerald Everett.
Yeah, so this pick, I get it. I really do.
Yep.
No,
it's a very, very, very solid pick.
Yeah, he's kind of in a bad situation here because he needs quite a few things, and he just doesn't have the picks. Like, he's solid at running back, so it's probably good that Jahmyr Gibbs went right before him. Maybe he could have traded back if Gibbs was here, but yeah, I don't hate taking Quentin Johnson here too much at all. So not a lot of criticism here. So just a good pick, good solid pick there. Helps his wide receiver depth. Jumping into pick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with you. And then at 108, that was the individual that picked Bryce Young at 102. He goes with Jordan Addison, which he is my wide receiver too, personally, over Quentin Johnson. I feel he's going into a very, very good situation in Minnesota, and I think he's set up for a very, very solid year. So,
right.
I mean, I don't fault him for taking Addison there at all.
No, I don't either, especially with the wide receiver concerns we talked about earlier, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see them all highlighted here. He went heavy on wide receiver in this draft.
Heavy on wide receiver, yes.
Definitely needs a guy. And this is kind of chalk as well. Other than Bryce Young going over Anthony Richardson, there's really not much craziness that's happened so far.
Yeah.
All right, pick number 9 here. This is the first pick of this team. Their roster is a little interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is pretty bad. I will say that. At quarterback, they have
7th.
I don't know. I think it's because he had Tom Brady.
Yeah,
what was his only reason? And then he has Baker Mayfield. He does have Drew Lock and Trey Lance. At running back, he had he has Gardner Minshew, which Gardner does have a chance to start in the beginning of the year, I think, but I highly doubt it with Richardson's draft value.
Right.
I think so. At running back, he has Dalvin Cook. He did have Kareem Hunt, like if he can find a team.
Right. Pollard, Singletary, JK. There you go.
JK Dobbins, yes. Yeah, I've been trying to get JK off of him, but like he wants a starting quarterback, of course.
Obviously.
So which I don't blame him. So and then at wide receiver, he has Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb.
Not much, actually.
It's not much of note. And then at tight end, he has Dalton Schultz and Will Disley. So so with that, it is not. It's really amazing that some of these teams do so well. And
I know.
And then we often do see that quite a bit where these teams that shouldn't make it do.
Right.
It's for whatever reason, like a team gets hot and then they end up finishing well, and then they're kind of screwed over almost in a way.
So, in my opinion, no, this was not his original pick. I don't know how.
No, it was not.
It looks like they did a pick swap at some point.
Yes.
Because, if I was this team, my criticism would be this. I would have traded back here. You have
Yeah.
so many needs that this pick is not gonna save you.
No.
Um, like it's just you're trying to like Zay Flowers, and I'm lower on Zay Flowers than a lot of people out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have taken him in a couple spots in this exact location, so I understand it. But I mean, you have maybe one starting quarterback with Trey Lance, maybe
Yeah, maybe.
Dalvin Cook, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Damian Pierce. Like it's not a threatening group of guys
No,
there.
it's not.
You do have CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, but Zay Flowers is kind of meaningless to this roster. Like he's a luxury pick for a team that doesn't
Right.
have the luxury to pick it, So like I
Right.
would have been trading back for a second and a future first or something, anything I
Well,
could have been
well,
doing.
well, well. In this spot. So like instead of picking Flowers, would you have picked Will Levis?
No, because that's the value is
No.
just not
Fair enough.
there. That's the other
Right.
problem too. Like
Yep.
it's entirely possible that Will Levis can be a starter, but
Yep.
if you're taking Will Levis at 1.9 with the expectation of him being a starter, that's a mistake in my opinion because
Yes.
there is too much risk with that. Where at least Zay Flowers, he's going to be a good player. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe he's not going to be an elite wide receiver, but I think he can be a good one, right?
Right.
And same with like the two tight ends that go after this, and yeah, Will Levis. You're taking the stab on that, and there's a lot of risk. And when you have this many holes on your roster, you cannot afford that risk, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Because if you miss on that, it's setting you back even further, right? So, like, if it was me, what I would have probably tried to do, maybe if you could trade back to like the 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, somewhere in that range, and get a future first from one of those teams, because those teams are typically, the bottom tier teams, right? So maybe it'd be a
Yep.
top end 2024 pick with the quarterback class at that point. I don't love this pick whatsoever for this team specifically.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I get they wanted somebody, but they needed like they just need a lot of pieces. And I believe this individual is fairly new to Dynasty anyways. Um
Yeah, the
from
mistake of just not
yeah,
not understanding
of
when to
yeah,
rebuild, right?
of just picking a guy.
Right.
So, I think this is one of his first leagues that he's been in, and it really shows.
Right.
Unfortunately, it really
Right.
does. So,
Right.
I mean, I do agree. I would have tried to trade down,
Sure.
and try to and just try to get more assets for later on.
Right. So yeah, it's tough. Especially if you're newer to Dynasty,
It is.
understanding. And that's what I feel like a lot of people don't do, right? And I'm a victim of this. Like I am guilty of this, right? Where in my one of my original dynasty leagues, I have been mediocre for years, right? I've finished
Hmm.
as high as third. I finished as low as, it's a 10-man league, so as low as eighth, right? So,
Hmm.
and every year I fluctuate in that range. I've never been top two. I've never been bottom two, and my team is just not getting better, right? And
Yeah.
um, understanding when is the time to flip that switch. Like, okay, I just need to sell. I just need to sell. I need to tear it down, and I need to build this thing back up. I need to do that because you can only be mediocre for so long. And this guy, he seems like someone, especially, and it's hard when you're new to
It
Dynasty.
is. It is.
You should be ripping this thing down. You have Trey Lance as a potentially cornerstone at quarterback. You've got Dalvin Cook, who's older, Tony Pollard. I'd probably keep someone like a Damian Pierce. I'd keep CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. But everything else, I'd be flipping all of it for any
Yeah.
picks that I could be getting. And yeah, like I said, Zay Flowers, he's just a luxury pick for a team that doesn't have a luxury. And this guy just didn't identify that he needs to kind of make that transition. So
Yeah.
um, hopefully he can kind of pick that up from going forward, into the off season. But that's the one thing. It's hard. It's hard to
It
admit
is.
that
It
your
is.
team sucks.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it really, really is. And I had trouble with that during the season in this league, and like I was a fringe playoff team for most of the year. until the last week, and then I ended up not getting it, and then ended up with the fourth pick. So
Right.
like it
Right.
happens.
All right. So pick number 10 here. And, that
It's
was
me.
your pick.
Yep.
You already had Stroud and JSN, went through
Hmm.
your roster. You're kind of, a little bit in transition. Who were your
Yep.
quarterbacks again? You had
Yeah, I got
Kyle Pitts and
Stroud.
Hawkinson. Okay. And
Yes.
Njoku. That's pretty good. I'd
Njoku.
probably, if I was you, I'd probably, this is my advice, but I'd probably be looking to flip Njoku this year
That's what my plan is.
and
So,
Cooper,
I
but
yes, yes.
if you can. It's always
Yeah,
easier
yeah.
said than done, right?
It is, it is. And that's why I did go with Michael Mayer here, because
Sure.
that puts me with three solid tight ends.
I'm surprised you
And
took him over Kincaid, to be honest with you.
I know, but I think Mayer is going to be the better player, and I think he has Jason Witten like skills,
I
and
agree with you. I'm just
you
surprised
know,
you did it.
yeah, I wanted something steady, and
Gotcha.
so it's something I knew that was going to be reliable. I mean, I have that, I have the athletic freak in Kyle Pitts.
Right.
So,
Right.
I already have that. So I wanted someone that I know that's probably going to get 7, 8 targets a game, probably going to get 5 catches for 50
Right.
yards. I mean, that's something that's just going to be steady.
Yeah, the
So,
tough part here too is you could use a couple of receivers if I remember right.
mhm,
Kind of. You're not
kind of.
terrible at receiver, but you could
No,
definitely
I'm
use
not.
some depth there.
Yep.
But at this point, it's Jonathan Mingo, Rasheed Rice, Jalen Hyatt, Marvin Mims. Those guys, they're all mega tier breaks down, especially in tight end
Yes,
premium.
they are.
So,
a
um,
hundred percent.
and Zach
100%.
Charbonnet for a team that's not contending, I don't like it personally. You know, and we'll talk about your picks in the next episode where we go through rounds 2 and 3. But I
Hmm.
do like what you did in second round. But yeah, taking either of those guys here would have felt like a massive reach. So I don't hate what you
Yeah.
did here.
Yeah.
Even though you do have Hawkinson and Pitts, but in tight end premium, if Michael Mayer does turn into something good, like
Hmm.
elite, then that's a massive trio that is potentially there. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to go for. Like, I'm just, well, in this league, like it is a fairly low dollar league.
Right.
And I think those leagues can be really fun because you can kind of go for it and not have as much of the risk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
money's still money, but I feel better doing this in a $25 league than
Right.
like a $500 league that,
Right.
those risks, these picks are more valuable.
Right. And that's why I actually
So,
left a lot of the lower dollar leagues. Like I don't do any
fair enough. Yeah.
low value
Yep.
ones. And it's not because I don't enjoy them.
Mhm.
I find the challenge of
Yeah.
high dollar leagues because those ones are so cutthroat, man. It's
Yes, they
crazy.
can
So
be.
if you're out
Yes.
there and you're in one or the other, if you're in a higher dollar league, you probably started with lower dollar leagues. You kind of know this already.
Yeah.
But if you're in a lower
Yep.
dollar league only, higher dollar leagues are so cutthroat, and it's the
Hmm.
challenge that is exciting for me, right? Because you have to work for
Yeah.
every trade. You have to work for
Hmm.
every single scrap because everyone wants that money, right? That you're talking
Yeah.
big money, and
Big,
everybody
big
wants
money.
a piece
Yes.
of it. So,
Yep.
people are not just going to throw like in this league, for example, and I don't know if this is possible or not, but trading back to 4 or 5 picks, whatever, you could probably get an early second on top of that, and it's like
Hmm.
in any high dollar league, no, they're not going to
Right.
give you
Yes.
that much
Yes.
value for a simple trade back like that. Where these ones, again, like Dale said, it's not like people don't care, but it's just they just don't care as much. It's not as
Right.
critical to
Yeah.
be
Yeah. It's just
perfect.
different,
Yeah.
and I mean, personally, like, I like these leagues better because I know that I would be more stressed out on Sunday. It's to be very,
Right.
very honest, and
Right.
that's why I don't do any, like, it's like the DraftKings stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
don't do any of that personally
Right.
because I don't want to ruin my whole Sunday, and I just don't. I
Yep.
can't do it to myself,
I'm with you.
and I would much rather blow like $100 a year doing fantasy football and having fun than spending, hundreds of dollars and being
Losing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
stressed out mess.
Yep.
And
I'm
I
with
just
you.
can't do that to myself.
I'm with
So,
you. Luckily, I just
yeah,
don't. I'm not a stressful person. I can kind of roll with it. But no,
right.
it is definitely two different worlds. So,
It is
um,
100%.
all right, pick number 11 here. We'll get to the last two picks here and then kind of wrap this one up.
Yep.
Dalton Kincaid was the pick here. Now, this is the
Hmm.
first pick for this team.
Yep.
Can you give us the breakdown here
Yeah.
quickly?
Yep. So at quarterback, he has Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence. Um, and then and then and then he does have Tyler Huntley, which could be interesting if we keep seeing Lamar keep getting
Get
hurt.
injured?
So
Right.
yeah. So and then at running back, he has Khalil Herbert, Ramondre Stevenson. He has Kenneth Walker. At wide receiver, he has Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, which I think is a very interesting stack.
Yeah, probably not
Um,
intentional.
well, it probably would have been because he
Think so?
would have probably gotten most of those people, and but he did trade for Trevor Lawrence, I think.
Okay. Interesting.
Um,
DJ
yeah,
Moore could be something.
yeah, yep.
Sun guy,
DJ
Jamar Chase.
Moore,
Ooh.
yeah, Hodgins, yeah, he's Hodgins. He has Amon Ra in Jamar Chase. Let's see, and then at tight end he has Kittle, Fant, Dulcich.
Dulcich. Yeah.
Yep, and
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting. Not a
yeah.
bad
So
team whatsoever.
no. It's a fairly good team, and that's why he finished second
Second.
last
Yeah.
year.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Mahomes and Lawrence,
Yep.
man, that's a nice little
It's a tough
combo.
stack to beat. It is.
It's thin, definitely thin.
Yeah, it
One
is thin.
injury and you're kind of screwed, but
Yeah.
I mean, those two guys, if they stay healthy, man, you're just cooking with
Hmm.
gas right there. Now, I
Yeah.
think his running backs are. I don't normally advocate for this very often. I think I would have taken instead of Dalton Kincaid here. He's got Kittle, he's got Fant, he's got Dulcich. I probably would have taken Zach Charbonnet. I'm not gonna lie, and it's because he has Kenneth Walker, right? And
Hmm.
there's a little bit of insurance there that
Right.
you have the guy because everyone wants to believe they have the one or the other. And I'm going to get into this with the Tank Bigsby versus Travis Etienne, right? You see on Twitter, if you're following it right now, there's the two sides. No, Etienne is not that good. Tank Bigsby's going to eat his lunch. No, Tank Bigsby was a 3rd-round pick. Etienne was a 1st-round pick. Etienne's going to eat his lunch. It's like, you guys could both be wrong, right? Like nobody
Right.
knows who's right and who's wrong here. There is no answer at this point in time. You guys are just digging your heels in on nothing. You have no basis for this. And it's hilarious to me, but just get them both. And then you have the guy,
Exactly.
right? It's just
Exactly.
like,
Yep.
on Sunday I have to make a decision on which one I have to start. Who cares? You have the guy. You have the guy. You
Mhm.
can see how it goes and, just play it by how the season kind of rolls. And hopefully, ideally, you're going to have indicators, right? Almost every team has indicators. Oh, this guy's going to probably be better against this team because they are better against the run, or they're worse against scat backs or whatever. You can kind
Mhm.
of know going into the matchups. You can't know in week 1, but by week 5, 6, 7, you kind of have that idea. So I probably would have gone Zach Charbonnet. I don't fault him for going Dalton Kincaid. Again, you're looking at the massive difference in tier players, but even Kendre Miller, I think running back would have been a little bit more valuable, but this is tight end premium, so I can understand
Yep.
going with Dalton Kincaid. I just am not as big of a Dalton Kincaid fan as
Mhm.
other people out there,
Yeah.
but in premium, it definitely
Yeah.
knocks it up a
It is
little bit
hard.
there.
I mean, and personally, like that's why I went Michael Mayer instead of Dalton Kincaid because
Right.
I feel Mayer's floor is a lot better than Kincaid's.
Sure,
So
definitely.
I mean, I would much
Ceiling's
rather have the
definitely there, though.
stability.
Definitely
Yeah.
that has a ceiling, but I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't see the ceiling path that everyone else does with Dalton
Sure. Yeah.
Kincaid. That
Yeah. Yeah.
offense
No,
is
I understand.
loaded, dude. It's just,
It is. It's scary.
yeah, yep. So,
It
all
is.
right, going into pick number 12 here. This is the first pick and the only pick for this team, Ultraflex Ryan. So we're not going to go into it too deep.
Yep.
We'll just talk about his quarterback situation here.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
love this
it's
pick, actually, looking at his quarterback situation. He's got Russell
yeah,
Wilson, Deshaun Watson,
yep.
Kyler Murray,
He is good at what he's good,
Malik
man.
Willis. Like, okay, I get it. Maybe he's a little worried about Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. But still, man, like, you have Deshaun Watson, who's going to be I guess all three of those guys have question marks, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the mindset that they're all going to be fine, right? Like Kyler Murray is just an injury. It's just an ACL tear. He'll be back 100% eventually, right? And it's not like he was playing poorly before the ACL. He'll be fine after it recovers. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, both of those guys are playing poorly this year, but this just feels like an overreaction, in my opinion. Does he not have a single running back?
He actually doesn't. Like, he is the commissioner of this league, and like you don't have to have any running backs. Like, he went very wide receiver heavy. Like,
Whoa.
it is all flex basically.
Dude,
And
why? This
he
can't
was
be a good strategy.
he was hell bent on
He
having,
won?
well,
No, he didn't
like,
win.
he did not win, but like he was very, very determined to just go all wide receivers. Like, I think in the startup draft, like I think he got one running back. I think it was it.
He went
Wild.
he
It
went
is
zero RB
wild.
real hard.
He literally went
Real
zero
hard.
RB, and I low key love that, but it's also terrifying because whew,
Yeah.
it,
I
it, can-
mean,
it can go it can go interesting.
now it feels like a bit. I mean, you got Zach Charbonnet and
It
Kendrick Miller
does.
there.
It
I don't
does.
know. I would have probably taken one of
It
them,
does.
but yeah. I don't love
It
it.
does.
I
Yeah.
don't love it. It just
No,
seems unnecessary.
I don't either for his quarterback situation, but like I think for his overall league strategy, he's
Mhm.
going no running backs, so he
I
is
can
committing to the
understand that
bit.
because of the high variance year to year, right?
Yeah.
Like these guys,
Yes.
if you don't
Yes,
have
it
one of the
is.
top five guys, you're just not going to be guaranteed points every single week. And
Yeah.
so I can kind of get it, but it seems like a very risky strategy. So
It does.
considering the ebbs and flows of wide receivers, right? Because
Mm.
they all have good weeks and they all have down weeks. And even if you have 8 guys, they could all have a down week and then you're just screwed, right? So,
Mhm.
especially in one off playoff games, you kind of want the floor of running backs, right? Where as long as they're healthy, most of the time they have a pretty solid floor of like 8 to 10 points or something, right? Where
Yeah.
receivers, they could have 2 catches for 20 yards and you're just screwed, right? So,
Mm.
um, yeah, that's one downside, but it's the only pick of the draft. I
Yeah,
probably would not
it
have
is.
done that, but
No, I wouldn't have done that either, but like he is more like he's the more of the type that just does it just to do it, and
fair enough.
I can appreciate that strategy,
It'll be
but
interesting to
it
see how it
is,
goes,
yeah, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. 100%.
Sure. All right, so that is the entire first round, and I think we were gonna try and go multiple rounds here, but this is going a little bit slower than we anticipated. So we're gonna wrap it up here after one round. We'll be back Thursday with rounds 2 and 3. We'll kind of speed it up a little bit for those rounds. Like I said, tomorrow when you guys are listening to this, we're going to have. Well, I'm going to have an ETN versus Tank Bigsby discussion and kind of give the pros and cons of each of these players and why this argument is stupid. Like, it's just dumb, man. Like, this is, man, it's peak off season. It's pure
It
peak
is.
off season of we have nothing else to talk about, so we're going to make dumb arguments. And this is how people, especially if you're newer to fantasy and dynasty, this is how people get into trouble because a lot of people listen to stuff and then they make roster adjustments or trades or something
Mhm.
based on the advice that they're getting from other analysts out there who base it all off of complete bullshit, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's what frustrates me because people are so overreactionary that they ruin their teams, and it's only helping a few teams that are kind of more savvy. And that's where it puts people off from fantasy. It puts them off from dynasty. Oh, this is dumb. I got screwed. Now I'm screwed for 5 years. I don't want to do this
Mhm.
anymore. So I'm trying to grow dynasty for everybody, So I'm going to give you guys some of these talking points and kind of break them down this entire offseason, starting with that one tomorrow. So make sure you guys come back for that one. Until then, Dale, any last thoughts on this episode?
Nope.
All right. No, it was a good first round here. I like it for the most part. Only the the 109 was the only one I really, and the 102, I guess, was the only ones that I had a real discrepancy with in this first round. But other than that, pretty much chalk, like we said before. Until next time, you can find us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty_Dale. Podcast is available again on YouTube, Spotify, Google. If you're listening on one of those, go check us out on the other ones if it's more convenient for you. We're just here on all the different streaming platforms so that we can be available for everybody. While you're over there, if you can, just leave a like, comment, subscription to the channel. Tell us to one of your friends, and help us out. We're trying to grow all off season long. And just carried into the 2023 season. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And until next time, have a good night.